Good morning, everyone. I am Paul with Denver Decks, and I'm going to take a few minutes today to discuss quality concrete driveways. So if you're in the market for a driveway, one thing you may be discovering is that the costs can vary considerably from one contractor to the next. And I think this has to do with one specific observation. So you have two different industries supplying the concrete driveway. You have concrete companies that do sidewalks and driveways, and then you've got custom patio installers and custom deck builders that also do concrete as well, concrete driveways. Now, we're coming into it with two very different mindsets. So a company that does just concrete driveways and concrete sidewalks, typically they're looking for the most affordable way to do this. They're going to pour as many driveways a week as they possibly can. They're going to come in, demo the old driveway, they're going to form it up, and then they're going to pour the next day. Now, with a custom patio installer or a custom deck builder, we're coming to it with a different mindset. So we're looking more at the long-term quality, integrity of it. So concrete does not require a permit, so you don't have any county or building department accountability when it comes to how driveways are getting poured. So I'm going to explain how we pour our driveways, and then we'll address a couple of other points here. So first of all, we tear out the existing driveway, of course, and then we're going to mechanically tamp the existing soil, and then we're going to bring in road base as necessary, and both mechanically tamp and plate compact. Now, the biggest difference is we're going to put in a rebar reinforcement, a number 3 rebar reinforcement. Now, a number 3 rebar is the size of a Sharpie, maybe the size of my thumb, let's say. We're going to install that in a 24-inch grid. So this is a much more costly process than the traditional no rebar that's installed by a lot of concrete companies, or even the wire mesh. So the wire mesh comes in large sheets, maybe 4 by 20, and it's just thrown in. It doesn't take very long to install it, but I'll liken a wire mesh to a wire coat hanger. As anybody would know, if you take a wire coat hanger and you bend it a couple of times, it's going to snap. Now rebar, a number 3 rebar, has to be cut with a mechanism. It has to be bent with a mechanism, so it's mechanically bent and cut, so it requires a lot more effort to install it. But most importantly, the number 3 rebar, when the concrete cracks, and we know that it's going to crack, we put in control joints to tell it where to crack. But like a graham cracker, I use this analogy, but like a graham cracker, it doesn't always crack where it's supposed to. So that's where the number 3 rebar comes into place. So when the concrete does crack, that rebar is going to keep it from being able to pull apart, and it's going to keep it from being able to shelf. So that's why we always do, and this is not upon request, we do this in all. Now, the other thing is we always pour a 4,000 PSI concrete mix, as opposed to probably the more popular industry standard of 2,500. We also use a quarried aggregate as opposed to a river rock aggregate. And then the other thing, and we can probably all visualize this, when you have a concrete driveway and you see that it's starting to pit or it's starting to flake or spald in specific areas, what I hear most often from homeowners is they feel that they put in the wrong ice melt and it actually caused the concrete to disintegrate. But that's actually not the case. The reason you'll see your concrete driveway starting to spald or to flake or to pit typically has to do with the fact that the concrete was poured on a warm day. Unlike today, it was poured on a warm day. Let's say it's 90 degrees and that concrete is starting to set up. So what an installer will do is they'll grab a bucket with the sponge and they'll grab some water and they'll just disperse it on it so that they can get that proper finish. Now, the problem with that is what they're doing is they're diluting that top layer of concrete. So if they're pouring it at 3,500 PSI, once they put in that water, they decreased the actual PSI of that top surface, so it's not able to molecularly bond properly. So when the temperatures start to drop, or we're dealing with different moisture conditions, that top layer starts to pop off. So the remedy of that is if the concrete's starting to set up and you're pouring on a hot day, we actually use a chemical stabilizer. So this is installed in a powder form. It's a very offensive color, so that way we know that we've properly got it installed, and it's actually going to prevent the concrete from curing on a molecular level so that we can get that proper finish. Now, that's why we in confidence can say that our concrete driveways hold up the best long term. Now, obviously, you're going to pay more for a quality driveway. But in the long run, let's say you're going to live in that house for 30 years, our driveway is going to look better, longer, of course. And if you don't have all of these different components involved that I've mentioned, within a few years, your driveway could certainly start to crack, and depending on your soil conditions, it may start to shelf and pull apart and whatnot. And so you're replacing a driveway more often if you don't include all of these additional steps. So hopefully this has been informative, and please feel free to give us a call with any questions. 303-730-9642. And if you'd like a quote on a driveway, you can send us a couple of photographs of your driveway as well as some basic dimensions, and I can get you a good cost projection, typically within 10% within 24 hours. So outside of that, I hope you have a wonderful day.